Hi everyone, Liana here. Just going to quickly go over the WACC equation. It's important that you understand this this equation, because in the exam you're not going to be given a formula sheet, and if this does come up, it's important you know it. There was lots of questions in the e-text on how to calculate various portions within the formula, so I'll kind of explain that in a second. But you can use this formula to calculate many parts within the formula, but you'll see. So here we go, let's look at what we're calculating. So this is our weighted average cost of capital. So I'm going to write this out and then I'll explain it. So we go WACC here equals E over V times by RE plus D over V times by RD, okay? Then times by brackets 1 minus T, which is our tax rate. So that's our formula written all out there. Now there's three parts to this equation here: equity, debt, and tax. All right, so let me just classify that. This here, equity. Okay, this here, debt. Well, that looks a bit like a P, that's a D, and this here is our tax rate. Now sometimes in questions you won't be given a tax rate, sometimes you will. Sometimes the question will stipulate, calculate it less tax. Sometimes it won't. So if you don't have tax in the question, then we just do this portion of the equation, we can cross this out. But if we do have the tax, then we need to apply this portion of it to the equation, okay? T, obviously, if it's tax rate of 0.3, you'd go 1 minus 0.3, which would be times by 1 minus 0.3, which is 0.7 there, okay? So let me just rub out my scribbles. Okay, so tax, pretty obvious. Hopefully everyone's done that before. It's nothing too mind-blowing. Now, these are our important parts here. So what I'm going to do first is explain what RE and RD mean. So these here are our cost. Okay, so these are going to be expressed as a percentage. Sometimes it'll be given in the question, sometimes it's something you have to find. But that is your cost of equity, hence the E, or your cost of debt, which hence the D there. Okay, so this video I just want to explain what the formula actually means. So this is our cost here, all right? Now next part, we see E over V and D over V. So E obviously is your equity up here, D is your debt, and V down here equals value down there, okay? And what does value equal? It equals E plus D, okay? So if we've got equity over value or debt over value, what's that trying to find? It's trying to find our weight. So if I pull that up here, that is finding our weight. So that's the goal here. Obviously, weighted average cost of capital, weight. So E over V and D over V. So if you, by any chance, had E of 50 million, D of 20 million, your V is going to be the sum of those two, which is 70 million. So here you'll have 50 over 70. Here you'll have 20 over 70, okay? So that will be expressed as a percentage or 0 point, whatever it is, okay? So that's the breakdown of the formula there. We've got our three parts. Sometimes this is applicable, sometimes it's not. These two are always applicable. This is our equity section and this is our debt section. You might be in a question be given the WACC, and then you need to find out what is the cost of debt. So by using algebra, you can then move the equation around to bring RD over here and find out what the cost of debt is. So it's important that you understand this equation, the three different segments, and know that if a question is asking what is the cost of equity, then you can then manipulate the formula to then find that using algebra. Sometimes a question will just ask you simply what is the WACC, and this is the formula you have to do it. What's important when you read the question is to be able to understand what is equity in the question, what is debt in the question, what is the cost of equity, and what is the cost of debt, Okay, so I've given you a whole bunch of breakdown of some e-text questions that shall go through that further, but I think it's essential that you can actually understand this before you jump into the questions. Hopefully that helps.